Hey, what's up guys? Today in this video, I'm going to talk about two small improvements that I have done in the UI of this application so that the overall experience becomes better. So the first thing which I have done is this date has been changed. Previously it was basically the timestamp which was saved in the database. So I have added a little bit of a wrapper on top of that timestamp so that it is somewhat understood, the last modified thing. And I have also introduced this delete button, which basically allows me to get this confirmation modal pop-up. Okay, it allows me to add this title message, this message, cancel button is there, and submit button is there as well. If I click on cancel, nothing will happen, whereas if I click on delete and if I hit submit, it basically deletes the entry, right? So let's see how the functionality works. The first thing is, obviously, let me close out everything and go to URLs index page. So inside my index page, obviously in the links table, I have one additional parameter which is on delete. On delete is going to be called when the delete submit button is clicked. So let's see how that is happening. So in my link table, right, what I have introduced is this additional TD right at the bottom where I have a flex, and then inside that I have this button label HTML for delete link, and the button square button secondary. What basically I have done is, if you go to Daisy UI, I looked at this kind of an UI element and I added that. Okay, now if you need to see that it's a label, unlike this documentation where it says it's a button. Okay, and on top of it, what I have additionally done is it has an HTML for. Why? Well, if we go to modal pop-up, this is what the behavior was intended, right? So I can see that in the HTML it says that the button needs to have a label with for my model, and then the ID of the checkbox needs to be my model. So this is what the behavior needs to be. So what I have done over here is this label has the HTML for, this is the attribute. Okay, React doesn't do for, so we need to do HTML for, and with this I get the button, and then this button belongs to delete link is the reference. On click, obviously I have this function which I'm calling. We will get to that in in the later video, but the label is here. Now for the modal pop-up, I have this component. This component takes the ID, which is delete link. This needs to be same because I'm saying that this label is for this checkbox. So the label is here and the checkbox is inside the confirmation modal. If I open this up, you will see this is the input checkbox. The ID is coming from the thing which I'm sending over here. So you can basically reuse it. Then I have the parameter for header. I'm sending the entity and on confirm function. The entity is basically the current thing. This is where I'm using the state. Again, I'll come to that a little later. On confirm is a function which I'm passing as prop, and description is obviously the message which I get when I click on this. Once deleted, you cannot get the link back, and also you lose any history tied to this link. Okay, so these are the parameters. Now inside the confirm modal, what I'm taking those and I'm destructuring them. So I have ID, header, entity, on confirm, button text, and description. All are mentioned in the props. Right now, as I told you, the ID is placed over here. If I get the header, then I print the header in h3. If I get a description, I print the description over here, right? Then I have this cancel button, which basically does nothing but closes the modal pop-up, and this is the confirmation button. On clicking the confirm button, what I'm doing is I'm sending the entity which is coming over here. Okay, And obviously if I have a submit button text, then I print that, otherwise I do simple submit. So now with this basic component in place, what is happening? Well, when I click on delete, first I'm calling this function. This is nothing but a state variable. So I have to delete and I have set to delete, which is a use state, data from the use state. State variable is something which I have added. I'm saying that it can be either an IURL or it can be null. Initially that value is null, obviously. And whenever, because there is a map, right? So I'm getting multiple table rows, and whenever one particular delete button is clicked, I'm changing the state variable with the current URL. Okay. Now what happens is when the state variable changes, the confirmation modal gets that entity. Okay. So when the entity is passed on along with this onConfirm function, what happens is the confirmation modal gets the actual entity which was clicked, and hence as you see I have any and on confirm, what I'm doing is I'm sending back that entity. That's all that I'm doing. Okay. And what happens then is, if you see, how can I, right, I think I can do this over here. So when the link table gets that entity, right, I'm calling the on delete function. Now the link table gets the on delete function from the primary page. Why? Because the link table doesn't really know how to delete it. It just says that the delete function was called, and on delete I get the URL and I'm passing it to delete link, which is part of my code over here. So I'm making an API call, an axios delete call to this URL. Okay, and once that is done, I call the fetch URLs again, because then it automatically pulls the latest list of URL and it updates the state. It is as simple as that. So one quick thing, button is over here. Let me add once more. Okay, I need to get a redirect. So this is coming up. The delete button is here. It shows the confirmation pop-up. On cancel, nothing happens. On click, this title description is something which I'm calling through the prop. At this point, this confirmation modal has the entity which is this particular URL, right? On click of submit, what will happen? Confirmation pop-up will call this function on confirm and send the entity which I got. The link table then calls the on delete function with the entity, and the on delete function is something which we are getting from the prop. So it basically pushes everything to this page component, and the page component, what it does is it makes an axios delete URL call, and then it does the get URL to fetch the final list of URLs which are for that particular user. So that's as simple as this. And additionally, as I told you, the link table now is showing the date in a human readable format, somewhat human readable format. So what I had done is I created a util service inside my services folder, right? You can see over here, and the services folder creates, takes a date string, it creates a new date object, throws an error if it can't, and then it returns the local date string and the local date local time string. Okay, and that's how what I'm getting over here is this function. I pass the URL.updated at, and I get this kind of a table structure. Alright, so yeah, that's about it, guys. That's how I created these two improvements on the UI, and I'll continue to post more videos as I develop this application. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.